Ladies and gentlemen, Enshrouded is the newest survival game to break onto our shores, and with 40 hours in the game under my belt, it's time to see if it's worth our time, money, and attention, since it seems to be a bit enshrouded in other early access release games like Palworld. We're going to be going over my first impressions, and I'm here to tell you, don't let this one slip under the rug, as it's just really fun, and it feels good, it's rewarding, and it's a quite sizable game at that. But you're definitely going to need more details than that, so let's just get started at the top. So at Enshrouded's core, it's a beautiful marriage between a few different gaming genres. A survival game, a classic RPG with a bit of ARPG elements. We have an extremely in-depth building system that's going to allow you to go as deep as you want with it. But while this is mostly being built up as the next newest survival game with RPG elements, I feel that thinking that way is a bit backwards. I would personally label it more as a sandbox RPG that has base building elements. The reason behind this is that most survival games, you have a number of what is essentially self-management timers that you have to consistently be worrying about. You're gonna have to eat, you gotta drink, you gotta sleep. All the things like that. It's just always a constant shifting objective over your head, but in Enshrouded, these mechanics are there, but not in the full classic me manage hunger way. There is your food system, there is a sleep system, but instead of killing you or making you weaker if you don't interact with them, they take it in another way, where different kinds of foods and water will grant you different buffs, making your character way stronger for a limited time in a 3 buff slot system. Things like cooking a chicken leg will increase your maximum health, or how water will give you more stamina, for an example. And the same thing could be said for the elixirs and potions you receive, but they won't fill your 3 slot buff system. But they're pretty much going to work the same way. So this game's survival mechanics don't punish you for ignoring them, but reward you for participating in them. Another huge and very unique benefit that I found is there's a well-rested buff that you can obtain when you're sheltered, warm, and comfortable, meaning there's a roof above your head, you're sitting or laying down, and there's a fire nearby. And really, this gives us just another reason to visit home and make it as comfortable as possible, instead of just a place to empty your inventory and replenish food and water every once in a while. And not to mention, they made it so the more comfy you make your home, so if you add chairs, couches, chandeliers, you're going to increase how long your rested buff actually lasts. So you get more of an incentive to actually want to decorate your home for a reason. So even though you still got to get out there and axe down some trees, go gather materials, yes, it's still very survival game in that aspect, but specifically, the more tedious, busy work to a survival game has been cut down massively here in Enshrouded. Again, a very smart move that they built these aspects to reward you for interaction instead of punishing you. It just leaves me with a very satisfying feeling when interacting with the game. And by the way, remember to hit that like button if you're enjoying the video, and consider subscribing for more of this coming your way. I also stream every Tuesday and Thursday here on YouTube, so come on through, it'd be great to see you there. Thank you so much, guys. Moving on past that, the next thing I wanted to talk about is the combat itself, because it feels really good, even early on. So in typical combat game fashion, you have your melee weapons, you got yourself a dodge roll that has iframes, so if you time it right, you can avoid pretty much every attack in the game, which is a pretty good time. You have a shield that you can make very early on that lets you actively block and even parry for massive stuns, as the game also has a stun gauge that builds up. There's also ranged combat in the form of your classic bows and arrows, but we also have magic, and in the early game, this is coming in the form of 2 items. Wands, which let you cast whatever their base spell is, pretty basic, but actually serves as your mana builder to eventually allow you the use of staves, which is going to require you to find a magical scroll that has a limited number of uses to funnel through the staff. Now, a little tip, there are some ways that this can become unlimited, but I'm not going to be going into spoiler territory here in this video. So essentially, you got your standard RPG archetypes represented in an interesting way, and it's all surrounded by a really strong skill-based combat system. And guys, I'm always a huge fan for a game that allows you to dodge, block, parry, that works in a way that allows you to theoretically take on super high level endgame enemies at level 1. It would just take a lot of time, as opposed to games that make that completely impossible due to statistical imbalance. Moving on from that, let's talk a bit about traversal. Now, early on in the game, you are going to be limited to the standard human movement. However, two extremely early game items that you're actually asked to craft specifically in quests is a glider, which does exactly what you'd expect. Glide in a nice diagonal forward arc until you're either out of stamina or you hit the ground. And sometimes when you're looking like a flying squirrel, even a little bit after you hit the ground. And then next up, you're also going to be getting a grappling hook as well. And I do want to say your grappling hook can only be used on set grappling points. So you're not going to be able to just climb random mountains, but only where the developers want you to climb. It wasn't the biggest deal to me, but something to at least be aware of. I should also probably mention the shroud areas really quick. Yes, the world is wide open for you to explore at your own leisure, but it is absolutely built with a certain progression path in mind. You're going to be upgrading your flame at the base to clear out shroud, as you have the blue shroud, which equals good shroud, and the red shroud, which is bad shroud. Now, this isn't the game holding your hands by any means, but it's a way for them to kind of gate you off from areas you may not properly be leveled for or geared for. You're also going to have quest lines that allow you to actually unlock NPCs to bring into your base, such as a blacksmith that you can have set up at your shop at home, and this is just going to allow you to craft even more goodies. This does lead me right into item durability, but I feel like this game handles that perfectly. One of the first items you're going to need to craft is a workbench, and this is going to allow you to freely repair your weapons whenever you want. Also, a quick mention that if a weapon breaks, it doesn't even fully disappear. It's going to still be in your inventory, just unusable until you go back and repair it again. Repair benches will also be out in the wild, so it's just a very relaxed weapon durability system overall. So guys, up to this point, for where I'm at in the game so far, the star of the show is definitely the combat and exploration, but the combat is just so damn fluid and enjoyable. It's tight, the parrying feels great, the iframes on the roll feel super nice when you get them, and there's an entire sprawling skill tree in the game that lets you essentially specialize into a specific class, which lets you either go full unga bunga big smash, allowing you to just do massive damage on enemies. You can go stealth mode and get a 10 times increased crit on unaware enemies. Become a spellcasting powerhouse of a mage, moving from healing spells to fire, frost, and there's even more specific types of damage you could spec into. And this is just the start of the skill tree. I don't even want to spoil things that are further in for people that haven't seen it before. Also, you have massive bosses scattered around the place, usually at the end of large groups of enemies, and in my opinion, they feel really good to fight. They're high damaging, but well telegraphed attacks. But of course, when combining that concept with iframes on dodges, a good block, great parry system with a shield, or positioning yourself properly while playing at ranged with a bow and arrow or magic, it just all comes together and feels really good. I think this game is absolutely worth your time to check out. It has a beautiful medieval aesthetic as well. So if you like that concept of survival game mechanics made to incentivize you instead of punish you, if you like skill-based combat that is also fueled by how well you manage the survival part of this game with the buffs, and just a really fun, mysterious world to adventure in with interesting traversal and a unique take on this genre by way of mixing two separate genres in a fresh way, this game will be for you. The only downside is the timing of it, as it seems to be enshrouded by the hype of Palworld, releasing only a week after it. And of course, they're totally different games, different theme, aesthetic, the whole nine, but they're still occupying the same sort of space. And how Palworld has been popping off as it has been, this game seems to be just swept under the rug a little bit, but do not let that happen. I promise this is a gem that is waiting for you when you feel like it's the right time. I think it's a genuinely very enjoyable game that deserves to be played. Hopefully this will recover once Palworld calms down a little bit. As always guys, hit that like button if you liked the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and I will see you in the next video coming up on your screen next. Take it easy guys.